guys all have your Chromebooks in front of you. Does anybody need any help with anything? Aaron's here to help, so give a yell out if you need to. If you'll need to log into Board Docs as you with the password and info Sarah sent so that you can see everything. You can see you can see the agenda without logging in, but to see all the documents you have to log in. So let's stand for our pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll have a moment of silence. Sarah, could you do the roll call of members, please? Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Thank you. Our next item is the reading and approving of the official minutes from the September 8th workshop and August 18th voting meeting that were attached. Do I have a motion to waive the reading and approve those as stand? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Do we have any public participation this evening? Hi. Would you like to come to the podium, give us your name and what you're here for this evening?
Very last minute, not pressed for the opportunity.
You're fine, you're fine.
Lindsay Clausen. I am a parent of a student here in the school district, and I just found out tonight that we don't have anywhere to play our football this weekend. All of our contingency plans have fallen through. We are still waiting to hear from one school. I believe it's CL, but it's not looking good. Our senior youth football team is currently, the last 3 games have swept every single team. They're doing amazing, and we don't want to have to forfeit this weekend. And I just wanted to ask if there's any way we could possibly utilize the field just for this weekend. I know that construction is slated to start. I just didn't know. I know they haven't started. I just didn't know if it was a possibility we could ask them to hold off for another week to let our kids play.
I made a phone call to the house construction this morning, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. They were supposed to start on September 11th. They did move in equipment, but they haven't not broken ground. I could inquire about that and reach back out. I've been in contact with Mr. Myers as well.
Okay.
Where have you guys been playing? Over at Union?
No, this will be our first game that we were not going to be able to play on the field. We were supposed to play at Union. The superintendent approved us to play there, but the board said no. And our problem is we have to stay within our district per our insurance. So we can't even go to like Butler or I'm gonna say Slippery Rock, I think, is even too far. So like we have to stay within, and the problem is everywhere else that we've asked, they have something already planned for their field, so we cannot use it.
I don't think there's an issue playing here as long as we don't have
Yeah, that's
anything
correct.
going on up there construction-wise. So, I mean,
Okay.
does anybody have anything they want to add to that? I don't think we have a problem with that.
Okay. Well, thank you for hearing me out.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting us know.
Have a good evening.
You too. So you'll check on that and
Yes,
let us know?
yes, I'll respond back to everybody and let you know where we're at.
Okay. So we're going to move on to presentations. Our first presentation is our Student Board Representative Report from Maddie Myers. We're glad to have you here with us, joining us. Thank you for taking on this extra role.
Thank you for asking me. My name is Maddie Myers. I'm a senior here at AC Valley High School. I'm new to this, so I apologize if it's not up to you guys' standards. So I'm here representing our high school and our student council. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what student council has planned for the next couple weeks. So We have our pink out volleyball game on October 2nd planned. We're also having a bake sale for that. And at that game, we'll also be selling t-shirts and ribbons. All proceeds will be donated to a local cancer group. We haven't decided. That's to be decided at our next meeting on Friday. Homecoming, we have planned for October 11th here in the elementary cafeteria. We do have speakers for our homecoming game, reading the fort and everything. And then one last thing that we're doing for student council is we have agreed to help put on the Veterans Day Assembly, and we're currently finding speakers for that as well. That's it for student council. For the high school, I did pick out a couple things to tell you guys about what's happening at the high school. So right now we started up a couple weeks ago our second chance breakfast, which is for everybody. Last year it was for just people who came in late or people whose buses were late. But this year it's for everybody between periods 3 and 4. You can just go back to the back hallway and get a second chance breakfast. Our football team this year is 4-0, which that's amazing. I'm super proud of them. Construction is still happening outside of the high school main entrance. And then Friday, September 19th is the midterm for quarter 1. And then we have planned our first mentor meeting for Friday, September 26th. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miley.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the solar presentation by the McClure Company.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Dib Smith. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm a senior project developer with McClure Company. Thank you for your continued partnership with the district and McClure Company. We've been around for 70+ years as your ESCO performance contractor, and I'm here today to provide a review and opportunity of another efficiency and savings opportunity through solar implementation. So I'll flip through this presentation. So why solar for AC Valley? Well, you can lower utility bills and provide long-term predictability through a power purchase agreement or owning the array. There's 2 ways to implement solar. One is through a power purchase agreement, and one is for the district to own the array and operate it. So through that, you're able to have long-term predictable pricing. There's educational opportunities that we can discuss. You're also able to use the savings from from electricity savings for capital projects, and a lot of my favorite part is a curriculum integration. So really it comes down to financials. So the next page is why. Again, another reason for why is the PJM capacity auction. If you've heard of that, that's where utilities will buy their electricity on an annual basis. The utility does increase prices twice a year, June 1st and December 1st, and those capacity auctions will also trickle down to those consumer rates during those price to compare increases. So over the last 50 years, we've seen about a 3.3% increase, but due to the recent PJM capacity auction and the auction increase, the rates that electricity has been sold at, we're seeing 3 to 5% increases in rate increases. So really it's protecting the district from these rate increases. Right now I see the district uses Dynegy as a third-party electricity supplier, and you always use Penelec for transmission and distribution. So those costs are pretty much fixed, and they'll continue to be there, but you can control your supply costs, and that's what we're here to discuss today. So there is an opportunity for ground mount. The next page is at the elementary school. There is an opportunity for ground mount solar array that we've looked at. We've also evaluated at the high school as well. But really, the idea is that we looked at the district's utility bills for the last 12 months from August 24 to July 25, and we were able to see how much the usage was. So I believe it was around 900,000 kilowatt hours. So we sized an array that would offset 110% of the electricity that's being used today. So the concept is that we need about a 700 kW solar array to offset the electricity. So that could be on the ground, it can be on the roof. So we'd like to get feedback from the board if there's interest on location, and we continue to do more due diligence. What we've provided today is more of a desktop review. The red line you see is is the parcel, the black line is a contour line, and that just shows slope. So we're trying to avoid the stormwater basin there. You know, there's utility poles, so we would want to see deeds, look at the easements, right-of-ways, and really come back with a final layout. So that's the elementary school ground mount option. The following page is the financials. So what we've evaluated for the district is a power purchase agreement. A power purchase agreement is a $0 upfront cost for the district. McClure would lease the land, install the array, operate the array, and sell the district electricity at a fixed cost. So we looked at the power purchase agreement, so we'll go through the table here at a 30-year term. The reason we have a 30-year term is that's the useful life of the panels. They're warranted for 30 years. The output is. The useful life also goes up to about 40 years. So we've looked at it at a 30-year basis. And at the end of 30 years, the district has a choice to renew, decommission, or own the array and operate it for another 10 years. So there's customizable options. So year 1 through 30 there on the left of the table, left to right. So it's the number of years of the agreement, the annual net generation that McClure would guarantee that the system would produce. So we would produce 962,000 kilowatt hours. Column 3 is what the district is paying today in electricity costs. Column 4 is what the district would pay in a power purchase agreement. So it's about a 22% discount. This is preliminary. We would come back with final numbers if the district is interested. So you'll also notice in column 2 that the annual generation decreases 0.5% per year due to degradation. So then column 5 and 6 are just the annual savings and cumulative savings. So we see about a $1.7 million opportunity over 30 years for solar through a power purchase. So the good thing is that we do have a production guarantee. It is $0. It's hands-free. The only thing the district would be responsible for would be mowing, and McClure would do the maintenance, the insurance, the decommissioning, basically from start to, and that would all be laid out in the agreement. The following page is just another layout opportunity at the high school near the stadium. And again, this is open for feedback. Goal is to offset 110% of today's usage. We also look at any other ESCO projects. If there's recommissioning happening at the district, we can kind of come back with a final layout. So either way, wherever it's located, we have similar savings, but the next page is basically the difference between power purchase agreement and direct purchase. So again, there's no cost for power purchase, and we leverage the tax credits, we leverage rebates, the solar renewable energy credits, but if the district wanted to have any of those incentives, it's customizable where the district could have those items. So it's really up to the district on what the procurement method is. In a direct purchase, we use the visa method, so we would guarantee energy savings. That procurement method, great opportunities. Net metering, the next page, is a billing accounting method for utility, where it's basically every kilowatt hour produced comes off of your bill. So on an annual basis, they true up that net metering bank account, and then they pay out whatever excess generation there would be. So that 10% over the 100 would be excess generation that the district would receive a check for, the price to compare. The other thing that you may have heard about in the news is the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The Inflation Reduction Act prior had investment tax credits available until 2032. With the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the lifespan has been shortened to 2027. So basically what's happened is, on the following page, there's a timeline. We're able to safe harbor the tax credits as long as we go under contract before May 2026. But if we go under contract before the end of the year, we're not exposed to the foreign entity of concern rules that have not yet come out. And I'm happy to get into that deeper, but it's a bit. There's rulings that continue to come out, and you see the timeline here in your packet. But we are confident that we take all the risk as McClure on those tax credits. We basically guarantee you a kilowatt hour rate for 30 years at a fixed escalation. And then in that table that you saw a 2% escalation. We see the market at 3.5%. So again, going with McClure, we leverage rebates, curriculum enhancement. We have done Forest Area School District, Southern Columbia Area School District, Mifflin County School District, Upper Dauphin School District, Cowders, Portis is getting there. So a lot of districts are moving forward with solar, and if the board is interested, we'd love to explore it further. So there's an opportunity. We've integrated solar with the classroom with using solar dashboards, integrating the curriculum. We've done a Heat Island study from PRA at Bloomsburg School District. So there's opportunities to integrate. So for the next steps, basically, we have a preliminary concept here with savings. If the board's interested, we ask to execute a letter of authorization, which gives us a due diligence period to come back in let's say October with final numbers of the opportunity. We look at the location, figure out the buildable areas, and then come back with a contract-ready numbers. So it's a non-binding letter of authorization. I've provided that to the admin. From there, we come back with final numbers, and you'd see the agreements. The only cost would be legal review of contracts. That's also there. But outside of that, it's a great way to protect the district from interest increases. Please.
I have a question on decommissioning.
Yes.
So can you describe the process? And I understand what it means, I think, but what I'm concerned with is when the panels are non-functional, are they removed? Like, is that part of it? Is it a bond that you would take out to have them removed? Or is it on the landowner that you're leasing from to get rid of them?
It is spelled out in the contract, but we also work with the local township. Typically, they have decommissioning bonds or plans that we have to stick to. But also, we do decommissioning from ground, I believe 36 inches up from the ground, and within the EPA guidelines of recycling solar panels. And kind of a 30 years down the road thing, but it is factored into how we do have a decommissioning plan. And it's based on the local AHJ and EPA regulations.
Thank you.
Any other questions this evening? All right, thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate you giving us the time and your presentation. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to hear from Lisa Evans, who is an employee, one of our employees up at WestU, and has done some great things. And I'm not sure we've all met you, but it's nice to see you this evening. Are we doing it?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to move.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Meg Jeffel. I'm the principal of the Western Secure Treatment Unit, which is part of the Allegheny-Clarion Valley School District, and I'd like to introduce our Teacher of the Month, Miss Lisa Evans. Let me tell you a little bit about Lisa. You can turn that on whenever you want. So Lisa, we hired Lisa last year. She is a reading specialist / transition coordinator. It was a new position for us at WestU. We hired her out of the Title I-D grant, which, as you know, Mrs. Thurber sought out for us, so thank you, Mrs. Thurber. Last year, we got $88,000 in Title I-D money. This current year, we got $106,000 in Title I-D money. So part of that Title I-D money is paid for curriculum for us. We paid for salaries out of that, technology, and some tutoring, just a few things. So the reason we're here tonight is to honor Lisa, but also to talk about the success that she's had at our program, most recently with one of our students. And this is how it all started right here. I was walking through the hall, we had a brand new student, and he stopped me and said, "Hey, principal, will you teach me how to read?" So I immediately went to Lisa. I told him, of course we will, right? So then I went to Lisa, and this was like our first big challenge. Lisa had been working with students individually, but I said, we need to have a plan. So Lisa talked to myself, Mrs. Thurber, Melanie Cole, our special ed director, because the student was special ed, and basically came up with a game plan. One of the first things we did was purchase curriculum. So she kind of got input from everyone, and then the process began. So I'm going to hand it over to Lisa right now, and she's going to go through the process of what she did and talk about the students' gains and the successes that she had. But I just want to tell you all, I'm very proud of Lisa. She's an amazing addition to our program at Westview, and she has shown a remarkable progress with all of our students.
So when Megan came to me and asked me if I would teach a student how to read, we needed to start a program. This was the first student who came to us and openly asked how to read. A lot of them do have trouble reading, but they don't want to admit it. So when he asked, Megan, Melanie, and Kristen teamed up to explore the curriculum options we had, and I focused on creating a personalized plan for him. With teens and corrections, we've noticed a common pattern. A lot of them actually understand what they hear because they've developed a few strategies, like context clues and leaning on their strong listening skills to understand. But they struggle with spelling, reading, phonics, fluency. This was our pre-data for our student that we're talking about. He refused any work that included reading. He wouldn't do any assessments that included reading. He came to us with a pre-K first grade assessment from his last placement. So that's where we started. When I asked him what he wanted to learn, he said he wanted to learn the sounds of the letters and sight words. So that's where we started. We collected some resources. We used Bob books. They are pretty quick to gain confidence. Scholastic Rise, that's a little bit more for fluency, and it connects manipulatives, I guess. He's a really tactile learner, so he doesn't like computer work. He likes to handle the books. He likes to handle flashcards and worksheets. University of Florida, that's for phonics, and it's really good for blending the words and his own surroundings, because he was coming to us and saying, I don't know what this says in my clinical book. What does the poster on the wall say? So we helped him look at those words to help decode or sound out the letters that he was seeing. At first, he would only do sight words, so we started with the first Fry 100 sight words. The first time we did it, he knew 4 sight words. Within a week, he knew 30. So once he knew 30, he was super proud of himself, and then he would do more with me than just the sight words, which was great. So we moved to word families that rhyme, and then we moved on to books, Bob books. That was in April when we started. So now in September, he just took his first assessment for us, but an assessment, and he assessed at the 4th, 5th grade level. And he is completing reading work. He's also not refusing any assessments or benchmarks that we give him. He asked to read in his English class, which he's never done before, in front of his class. That was the first time he did that. So we were excited for him and excited for what he has accomplished, because he really worked hard to do this. I asked him if he wanted to say anything or wanted you to know anything about the reading program today, and he said that he got to pick what he liked and what worked for me. And that's how he feels he's a success. So now we're growing the program. So currently we have 9 students in the reading program at Westview. They all have individualized reading plans. They're all different in what they need and what works for them and what doesn't work for them. I recently went to a corrections education conference in Pittsburgh, And there I went to one of the sessions. It was specifically for correction education reading. Because a lot of times when you're teaching a person phonics, it's geared toward a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old, not a 16-year-old. This specific program is geared toward teenagers or adults who are still learning phonics or just learning phonics and reading. So I'm going to look into that and see if that's a possibility for this upcoming year. Thank you for your support of West 2 and the reading program and Title I, and thanks for having us here. And Meg, I think, brought everybody little bookmarks. Yep. Which are super cute. Yes, because we're celebrating reading. Anybody have any questions? Yeah.
But my question, I think you kind of answered that. Just based on this one student approaching the principal, there's got to be a lot more out there.
There's a lot more out there. They all need help, but they won't all take the help. But it's getting better. Students are coming up to us and saying, Miss Lisa, I need to learn how to spell. Miss Lisa, I don't know all this vocabulary. You know, they're starting to be more comfortable asking for help, which is good because they see him and they see his success and his confidence.
Also, something else that we're doing is we're starting a learning lab to call it this year, which is a resource room. Myself, Lisa, Melanie, and the special ed teacher, it's going to be basically a learning lab. So students can come in there and get individualized attention from our special ed teachers, Melanie and Billy, or Lisa, and the students in there. Similar to what they would have, you know, in a public school. Something that I know a lot of these other facilities like ours do not have, but we can really do it, and they actually have a schedule where they put kids in and they look at them and cut for them, and we're going to try to make it like a really cute place where kids want to come, and they're already hitting it with a fish tank. So yeah, we're going to try to make it really cool and hip, and she had just said, like, you know, this one particular student we talked about today, she goes, every time he walks by, he wants to come in. So I'm like, well, that's a really good thing. So we just can't do that too, you know. So it's a great thing. We want them to come in and all students, if they don't have to be special ed. And we want to open that door, make it a cool place where they can come, and want to learn, they're comfortable. And like Lisa had mentioned, this student is always very shy. He never wanted to leave. He put his head down, shy a little bit. You know, he asked to leave the middle of English class. And then he stopped himself and he said, you know, this might be a little bit too hard for me. So like I give him a lot of credit for trying and then stopping and saying, you know what, to the teacher, if this might be a little bit too much. She goes, okay, we'll try it again. So that's consoling. So thank you, Lisa, for all your work.
You're part of our health capacity. We appreciate all your hard work and what you continue to do for our students. Thank you. Okay. We now have another presentation. It's not on your list, but our principals are going to present to us some information about data for, I assume, last year's PSSA and Keystones?
That's correct. So thank you for allowing the administrative team the opportunity to be able to present the data from the spring testing, both the Keystone testing, which is done grades, basically grades 9 through 12, and the PSSA testing, which occurs in grades 3 through 8. Just a little side note, though, as we look through this data, you know, the data is being presented not to hang one specific individual, not to look at one grade level and say, oh my gosh, you know, they aren't doing so great there. It's because there are just so many things that occur and that have impact on those test scores. Specifically, the curriculum and the content that's taught, good instructional practices, and a big, huge one is motivation, the motivation of the student to do well. So all those things are constantly being analyzed every year when we pull all this information together. And definitely, I think I can speak for Lori when I say that as building principal, ultimately, we are the ones that are responsible, both myself and Lori, for each of our buildings and making sure that we continue to progress in the right direction. Also, one note, the data that's being presented tonight has nothing to do with growth. The growth numbers from the state of Pennsylvania has not been released yet, probably won't be released at the earliest, the end of October. When that occurs, we can present that as well. The growth numbers almost always look very, very good for our district. Above average, I would say, compared to districts across the state. And when I talk about the administrative team, I'm speaking specifically myself, Mrs. Sherman, Mrs. Thurber, and also I'd like to introduce Miss Christina Best, the 5th grade teacher who was completing her principal mentorship under Mrs. Sherman, and she pulled a lot of this information together for the PSSAs. I'll begin at the high school level and speak about the Keystone scores. And I want to just describe for some of you that are newer to the board what the difference is between a Keystone test and a PSSA test. Basically what that looks like, grades 3 through 8, students are tested in literature and in math in each of those grade levels. So they go from grade 3, they're tested in both of those, grade 4, math and ELA, grade 5, math, ELA, and science, grade 6, math, ELA, grade 7, math and ELA, and grade 8, math, ELA, and science one more time. The Keystones are different tests completely, and they are an end of the content test. So for example, literature is tested after grade 10. At the end of grade 10, the ELA is tested, and if the student doesn't reach proficiency in that particular testing frame, they can test again. So what I do at the high school is once I get all those scores back, a 1500 is considered proficient. If a student tests at 1475, in my book, that means they are probably 3 questions away from being proficient. The Keystone tests are also broken into 2 modules. If they could be proficient on one module but not on the other module. But overall, they have to have a 1500. So I retest any of those students that are at a 1475 or higher, up to 1499. So the information that I'm giving you here is not students that were tested in the spring. What occurs in the state of Pennsylvania, they can test, and some schools don't test literature, for example, in the 10th grade. They may do it in 9th grade. Algebra, a kid could take algebra in 8th grade and test on the Keystone for algebra, or they don't take it till 11th grade. And so at the end of their 11th grade year, they would test in algebra. But at the end of 11th grade, the scores are locked. In other words, they can't test as a senior. So what this represents is this year's seniors. At the end of spring, their scores were locked, and these are our percentages. So you can see in literature, this year's class, 12th graders, 80% of them were proficient on the literature exam. 58% for algebra, and 64% for biology. Just to give you an idea of where this group stands in comparison to last year's and the year before, I have a historical data sheet, and you can see it right there. So ELA, for example, in 2023, 64% of those students in that graduating class, actually that would be the graduating class of 2024, they were 64% proficient. The year after that, 60.5%, and then of course this year's seniors, 80%. So you can see that changes a little bit from year to year. It's a different look than it would be for PSSAs, because the PSSAs at the 8th grade level, for example, is tested every year, but it's a different group every single year. So you would expect there to be differences there. Now, these are the differences that you see in those content areas based upon groups going through. If anybody has any questions as we go through that, I can answer those as well. Sure.
So, I'm just thinking because one of those, Hayden had a very small class. So is that kind of what's attributed to a little bit of the dip, that middle year is how less, a lot less students?
There are a lot of contributing factors. It's the mix of kids. Some groups of kids that come through, they are, it's not that they're not intelligent, but they're intelligent in different ways. For example, maybe it was a larger group of students that went to the Career Center and were more hands-on oriented as opposed to, what we call the typical bookworm. That there are differences too, just in the makeup of the class. I mean, it's unless you're in education, you don't understand how the culture within a specific class changes from year to year. It really is amazing, and it's just the nature of education as a whole. So, if you have, just to give you an example, of a lot of highly proficient students, they like to compete off of one another. And they drive one another to, be better in that way. Whereas the opposite happens if you have a lot of kids that go to VOTEC, they drive themselves to be more proficient in that particular, area. So it's very different every single year. So it's like, I tell my teachers, we have to be consistent in, number one, what we teach, the content and the curriculum, and number two, we have to keep working with the most effective teaching practices that we can so that at least that part is consistent and it gives us something to go by. If we just chase numbers, we'd be chasing our own tail, completely every time. So we are going to move into PSSAs, and I'm going to hand the baton over. But before I do, I placed at your seat 2 sample questions off of the 2024 PSSAs, and it's specifically math, just to give you an idea of the types of, at least on this piece, multiple choice questions that our students have to answer. The number 1 question, no calculator. The number 2 question requires a calculator if you want to use it. Some of you may be able to solve it without a calculator. But I mean, again, you have to know the processes of math to even be able to approach the question, to be able to eliminate information that's just not necessary and focus in on what exactly they are asking. But in your spare time there, I know what the answers are if you want to test yourself. But I'll pass off the presentation now over to Mrs. Sherman and Mrs. Best.
So Christina is going to start us off here talking about some of the data, but as Bill mentioned, she did her principal's certification throughout the last school year, and I served as her mentor, and I just wanted to give a big kudos to her for what a great job she did the entire year. And I don't know that I've ever met anybody besides maybe Bill who loves to delve into data more than Christina. So we thought it only fair that since she did so much of this, she was here almost as much as I was this summer working on data and different things from PSSAs, and I've learned a lot from her about even how to analyze some of this. So we invited her here tonight so that she could sort of reap the benefits and the rewards of all the work she did with her project in the program. So.
Thank you. I just want to start out by thanking Bill and Lori for including me. They're not wrong. I have a passion for data, and I have a passion for using it to guide instruction and to drive growth. We make a lot of instructional decisions based on how our kids are doing when we look at their data. So with that being said, what you're looking at right now is your preliminary PSSA pass rates for the 2025 school year. These will be finalized probably sometime in September or October, but you won't see a huge difference, probably maybe upwards of 3%. And it has to do with Right now, whenever they release that, we count every kid as 100%, but sometimes you have move-ins and you only get 60% of their score or things like that, so there's just a little bit of adjustment. But right now, we're looking at what our preliminary pass rates are for the 2025 school year. And overall, when you glance down through those scores, ELA is in the first column. And in English language arts, we do have a bright spot. Our 6th grade is obviously a bright spot, and our 8th grade has really maintained a bright spot. We did meet with our Ed Insight representative in August because our scores are somewhat down. You're going to hear action plans from Lori in the administrative section on what we're going to do with that. What he's telling us is we're trending down in the state a little bit this year. It doesn't excuse where we're at, but it does help explain some of that trend. On the math note, AC Valley's historic data for grades 3 and 4 is a smidge down from where we've been historically. The 5th grade data is significantly higher than we've seen ever, and then 6th grade is lower in the elementary school, but that actually trends with state. If you look at state averages, and we'll do that in a moment, your 6th grade actually has shown a little bit of growth every year for the last 4 years, and we're trending closer and closer to state with that 6th grade. 7th grade, it took a dip a little bit, and 8th grade came back up. In the science column, last year was your first year that the 4th grade test moved to 5th grade. That test is quite a bit different with the level of critical thinking and scenarios that kids have to look at. And that score is quite lower than we're used to seeing, but that is also a baseline score. That won't affect our building score overall this year. And we have some action plans in place that Lori will tell you about to raise that up. And so that's your preliminary scores. Does anybody have any question about those? What we thought we'd do is take a look, just like Bill did, at some historical and cohort data. Cohort data means that we're following apples to apples, and it's the same children. So if you follow the line on the diagonal, and again, and I'll point out that the 2025 year has an asterisk because those are preliminary. The other ones are solid. They were released by the PA Department of Education. And so if you follow the line on the diagonal, say, let's look at the salmon line starting in 2022 at 68.2. That is the pass rate in 3rd grade for that cohort. But as you follow them throughout, closer to the left on the diagonal, all the way up through 6th grade, you can trace. And what you want to do on the diagonal is each time you go down a level, you see growth. And we're always looking for growth with our kids. How can they perform as good or better than they did the year before? And like I said, each diagonal, your turquoise diagonal is your current 6th graders. Your magenta is your current 8th graders. And so on the diagonal, same kids. If you want to look at trends in grade level, you'll look horizontally. If we look horizontally, it gives us some things to look at as far as what we're seeing in grade level trends. But like Bill said, if you've got some significant changes going across horizontally, that could be anything. Changes in curriculum, intervention, staffing, group characteristics. And so we, in the administrative arena, we look at that, try to figure out why our data is where it is and what can we do about that. And you'll see that in just a little bit. In addition to that, just for your reference, that 2020 is grayed out because that's our COVID year, and that year data wasn't recorded for schools. Some schools, they took the test, but it wasn't recorded down through there. Kudos on the ELA, again, to grade 6 and grade 8. They're showing solid performance and growth across the horizontal for the most part. And that's what we like to see happening. And then on the next slide, we're going to move to math, and it works exactly the same way. Yeah, we're on math now. Again, the colors on these just mean a cohort. So if you follow the same shade down through on the diagonal, you'll be able to tell how much growth that group of students are now have achieved throughout each year, because that's their pass rates. One thing to note is that then on the horizontal lines, you've got your grade level trends. And on 3rd and 4th grade, our math scores are trending down just a smidge across the grade level. And so we'll definitely be taking a look at that. And then in grade 5, we did have a significantly greater score than we've had in a lot of years, and we're really proud of those kids. And then grade 6 shows, as you can see, as I said before, some increases over time. And that's nice to see, and they're trending closer and closer to state, even though that score is a little bit lower. So those are our cohorts that we can follow on the diagonal, and then grade level trends are horizontal. Any questions on those? Our next slide is science. And the colors work the same way, except they look skewed, and that's because there's a gap in years testing. They're tested in grades 4 and 8 until last year. They're tested in grade 5 and 8. Action plan, you're going to hear in our action plans what we'll do to look at some of those scores, because they weren't as high as what we'd like to see them this last year. And we do have some plans in place for that. Yeah. And then the last piece, I'm going to caution everybody that this has a year lag time. But as Lori mentioned, I do really love looking at data. And this piece actually, I just came to AC Valley last school year. So this piece I actually started creating for my own knowledge and my own opportunity to network prior to I came here, and then I just keep updating it. I love this report because it blends all of the publicly accessible data. It blends demographics from your Future Ready Index. And why I did Clarion County on this report is because it supported being able to network at the countywide, Clarion County, countywide in-service. So this report will show you demographics that are released on the Future Ready, and that's along the top for each school district. It's a comparison snapshot of the Clarion County schools. Then in the purple column is your state average. I put the state averages on for pass rates because we can see how all of Pennsylvania is doing on state average, and the rule of thumb is that we'd like to be performing better than state average, because that really tends to skew a little bit downwards by the impact of a lot of our population in our inner city schools who don't tend to perform as high normally on PSSAs. So a great goal always to start at is we want to get higher than state average, and that's in the purple. Then the numbers that you're seeing on that report are the PSSA pass rates for each grades 3 through 6. And I started this with the elementary. And so when you look at that, grades 3 through 6, there's only one last thing to point out, and that is the color coding system that's not the purple state average. And like Bill said, we don't have the PVOS data, but the PVOS data is growth data. And I personally really prefer growth data because some of these tests, and especially when you take your 2-question sample that Bill gave you, some of these tests can be very, very challenging for some of our students. And we hope that all of them can aim towards passing. And if they struggle to pass, I know and believe that every student can show growth. And those color codes, the red, green, yellow, and blue, that's reflecting PVOS growth for the year prior, 23-24. And what I like to say is an analogy, if you're new to PVOS, is PVOS and growth works like a stoplight, like a traffic light. If you see a red color up there, it means stop because your kids mostly did not, there's significant evidence they didn't make the growth standard. If you see a yellow, that's a caution that we're not making the growth standards that are set for us, the projections. Green, I always say that's good. Go ahead, you're making a year's worth of growth. And blue is better than that. It's distinguished growth. And so, for instance, when you look at some of that, will the laser work from here? So for instance, I'm going to point something out. So if I can, there. So right here in this math score, and I used this before, and I'll point it out because that actually is my score. That school year I taught at CL. That 80% there was distinguished because it's colored blue. But if you look next door to Keystone, they've got an 88, and theirs is only green, which is proficient growth. And the reason for that is that cohort of kids in the 3rd grade year in math was into the 90%. So when they scored 88, that was proficient growth, but it wasn't distinguished growth, even though that number is so high. So the idea of growth really helps us understand how our kids are doing, because we're always looking to make sure that everybody is able to grow. I will tell you that this report, I was able to distribute this in the spring to our teachers during a grade level PLC, and it probably generated the most discussion, professional discussion, about where our scores are and how do our demographics affect that. And then, like I said, it was actually something that served as a springboard for us to network with other teachers at the countywide in-service. You can reach out to teachers who are teaching that grade level, and same as you, and start brainstorming about how are you excelling at your craft, and what instructional strategies do you have that are research-based that can help us support our kiddos too, because we're all one team working to make sure our kids are supported in the area. So when the data is released, that it's finalized and released, I can update this report and share it with my administration, who can share it with the board. In addition, Lori shared that Robin Philman creates something similar through the IU, and we'll make sure that we get data out that helps you to understand where our school is doing in relationship to our IU and our county. I think it's really helpful for us to understand, because we can start to see how we have similar demographics. So how are we performing, and what can we all do to keep making sure that kids in our area get the best that we can give them? And if nobody, does anyone have any questions for me? If at any time you'd like to talk data, I would love that. I'm going to turn it over to Bill and Lori, and they're going to share some administrative reflections. And I will also share that at the end of your presentation, there's a resource page. So if you'd like to dig deeper into any of the data, all of this is publicly accessible, and everything that was put together besides preliminary was all done without passwords. It's all out there for our community to see a snapshot of us.
I'm going to begin with the administrative reflection for the high school. And the graphs that you see in front of you are all of the scores combined. So it does include the Keystone data as well. And I mean, the colors are pretty straightforward there. It gives you an idea, just overall look at, the academic performance in those two areas. For the last 2 years, I have been working with my teachers in examining data. And just to give you an idea, at the beginning of the year, we test all of the kids on a benchmark assessment called iReady. And iReady is typically focused more on growth, but it also provides us with, a lot of information that we can dive into specific students' needs. And so that's where we go with it. I think that English language arts, if just off the cuff, I would say that those teachers have really taken to it and have learned to work very closely with the data and to compare that to years past. I can tell you that the mathematics department, we are going to be sitting down having some serious reflective discussions about where we're going in the future, because I don't think anybody would look at those percentages and feel that it's good enough. And so we really have to hit the accelerator on what we're doing at the high school as far as math goes. But I'm going to continue my data meetings with those teachers and refine them. And we're going to sit down and we're going to problem solve and see what is going on that we're not getting performance. Kudos again to my ELA teachers, because if you look there, the below basic 3.1%, and yes, it's just numbers, but to me that represents one kid. We had one kid in that group that was below basic. And our district is small enough that one kid amounts to 3%. So just thinking of that, you get 5 kids to go over that little level of between basic and proficient. That's an extra 15%. That would change that graph pretty dramatically for both math and ELA if we did that. And now I'll turn it over to Lori for her assessment of her building.
Okay, so similar to Bill's, I have the pie charts on there that are cumulative grades 3 through 6 for both English, language arts, and math. The note that we have down there, though, in discussing with Christina, this is one of the things that we looked at. Our overall scores in 2025, while there were some good and some bad points in it, they showed a decline in the number of below basic students we have. So those are the scores for this year, but there was a larger percentage of red in years past. We have increased the basic, which is the yellow. So obviously, the part we want to increase the most is blue and green. But knowing that we have grown students from below basic to basic is a positive. And now we know that our goal has to be to take some of those students who have moved into basic and are maybe, right around the proficient area and bump them into the green. So continue to keep the red shrinking, but shrink the yellow and increase the green and blue. So our action plan, and as far as that goes, is professional development. We have dedicated a lot of our PLC time, our professional learning communities with our teachers, to analyzing data, goal setting, and driving instruction based on the data that we're looking at. We've also created a data team at the elementary school under our MTSS committee, and they are meeting frequently to kind of do some of that footwork for the teachers, because the teachers do have a lot on their plates, and to add a bunch of data analysis on top of it would be a lot. So we have a great team. Christina's part of that team that helps us analyze the data and then take to PLCs some suggestions of what they could do to improve instruction. Oh, and Firefly, that's on another slide coming up. We're going to talk about that, but it's a program from the state that is like a practice PSSA, basically, because this year they are changing the format on us again, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so in ELA, that is our big focus for this year, because our ELA scores, with the exception of 6th grade, were not where we had hoped they would be. We saw decreases pretty much across the board. So the very first thing we did at in-service this year was ask our teachers to focus their SPMs for the school year on ELA. For the past 2 or 3 years, we've been focusing them on math, and we have seen some significant increases in math. So, we're hoping that we can do the same for ELA while maintaining our math growth. We also started curriculum maps and pacing guides. Those are completed and in action for grades K through 3. They began using those last year. We are still looking at those, still tweaking those, having teachers report back to Kristen and I on where they're at in their pacing, to kind of keep track of if we are getting the standards in time for the tests and those kinds of things. And K through 3 is not tested, or 3 is, but K to 2 is not tested, but we still have those in place for them, because those are our foundational years, and so it's very important that we get the foundation in place so that when they hit 3rd grade and above, they have what they need to succeed on those tests. We are looking at our curriculum for ELA is very outdated. My first year in the elementary, they started the Journeys series. They had purchased it before I came. So this is the 10th year of that series. They don't even make it anymore. We couldn't purchase the supplements or any of there was no online programming for it anymore. So we're kind of having to pull from different areas to supplement what we have. So we do have some of our teachers focused in on looking at curriculum, looking at do we want a series, do we want to piece together what we need. So that will be a process this fall and early winter, and we'll probably be bringing something to you in the budget. And then we've also added the FastBridge benchmark assessments and Firefly to progress monitor and make instructional decisions. FastBridge basically replaced iReady and Acadience that we used last year. Same idea, we have beginning, middle, and end of year testing, and then we can progress monitor between those benchmarks to see where we're at. Under math, our comprehensive goal says that at least 50% will be at pass rate. There are two of our grade levels are not above 50%, but we did meet the goal school-wide in the 24-25 school year. So some of the things we've been doing in math have obviously shown success. Our action plan to keep on track with growing math, we adopted the Eureka Squared curriculum, which we purchased for this year. So that is happening already. And then again, the FastBridge benchmark assessments and Firefly, same as ELA. And lastly, the science. Those scores were probably the biggest shock because we have, traditionally had very high scores in science, as did 8th grade. And then last year, the test changed and moved from 4th grade to 5th grade. So we knew that there was going to be some surprises there, and we were surprised by it. But, as Christina pointed out, it's not going to count against us in our school-wide scores and building scores. It was basically a baseline year. So that gives us some time, and we do have one of our science teachers who is using some of his time in the day to create a standards-aligned curriculum with our Amplify Science program and knowing what is coming on this new test this year. Another thing that will be different this year, 3 through 8, is the test is no longer paper and pencil, it's online, which is required by the state. The only exception would be if there are IEP dictated needs that we could use paper and pencil, but the majority of the students will be taking it online, so that's going to be completely new. So we have some concerns there, and Firefly is one of the ways that we're going to address that. But in addition to the curriculum mapping and pacing guides for science, to help us get the students prepared, we have increased the instructional time for science in 5th grade this year. Typically, we split the science and social studies are generally given the same block of time in every grade, and they split it 50-50. But in 5th grade this year, we have increased the amount of science time and decreased the social studies just a little bit. And this is basically the last slide. As I said, the state is mandating that we move to online assessments this year. I think the Keystones, you did some of those online last year, so we've dabbled in that. But at the elementary level, we don't have keyboarding classes. So, we have concerns about just their physical ability to, it's one thing to answer A, B, C, or D, but for the 4, 5, and 6 grades that have to write paragraphs, time will be a factor in how fast they can do this test. So we definitely need to practice that, and that's what Firefly will help us do. It is a state-funded benchmark assessment, completely free from PDE, and it basically takes the kids online and runs them through practice questions. It does not practice the TDAs, though, correct?
Right now, it's not. Right now, it doesn't practice Right now, it doesn't practice the TDAs. Lori and I worked on this together because this was part of my principal project, is preparing our school to be ready to use the online assessments and the Firefly. Firefly is super exciting because it is touted as being predictive data. When we take it 3 times a year, it's fully aligned to the state assessment, and they are saying that it's predictive. And the schools that, I'm sorry, I just started. The schools that piloted last year truly are saying that they found it to be predictive, and it helped guide instruction. And we are going to work with Carla Fumpfer, and we're going to run this 3 times this school year, use the data to help provide some feedback to what we are doing instructionally to see if we can use it to support growth, a tool as supporting growth. In addition, with the new test, there are also technologically enhanced questions, which means that kiddos won't just be filling in multiple choice bubbles and typing answers. Now they'll be doing drop-down boxes, they'll be drawing lines, they'll be moving boxes around, they'll be circling things. And so using Firefly means that they get authentic practice in the format they're going to see it come from the state. So we're excited to be able to move into that opportunity free and completely aligned.
Is it replacing the CDTs? Okay.
Yes.
They still have CDTs, but the Firefly is more directly aligned, and it's meant to mirror the PSSA.
Okay.
The
Now, the CDTs I know would link to state information as far as, you know, here's some things you can use. It was supposed to. It didn't always have great information in there. Is that the same thing they're doing with Firefly? Are they linking things for teacher resources so that?
It's also listed as new to us, but there is a capability or possibility that will link to that
It-
model.
It does, and in fact, this, Kelly, the format for the CDTs, when we access Firefly, it will be the same process to access Firefly as it would have been CDTs. They're all listed, as well as Keystone and PSSAs. It's all through the same format on DRC.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Okay, and the last slide, as Christina stated, is just basically a resource slide, so that if you are interested in looking at the Future Ready Index or any of these publicly accessible data pieces out there, you can click on any of those links, and we will share the whole presentation with you after the board meeting tonight or tomorrow, so that if you do want to go in and look at that data a little more closely or go to any of these links to see where it comes from, you'd have that ability. And that is it.
That's it? Thank you for putting that together for us. We appreciate the information. I'll let Aaron get the, yeah, I need my sunglasses. Okay, we're gonna move on to board concerns. Are there any board concerns this evening? I will just state that Dr. McDivitt and I attended a presentation Friday morning with all the Clarion County schools. It was their superintendents, some of their business managers and board people, board presidents, with Josh Bashline to kind of hopefully help him understand a little better our issues with cyber schools and funding. I don't know if you're going to talk about that. I don't know that we made a huge impression, but we offered him some information, and hopefully he will use that as he's making future decisions. So, because it's very important to all the districts in Clarion County. So, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, not necessarily. He was just pro cyber school, and he didn't want to modify any of the funding mechanisms that are associated with it. So we provided them with all of Clarion County's data and hopefully educated him, and we can influence his decision moving forward, especially with the budget in front of us.
And I want to just publicly thank Dr. McDivitt. He did a great job of presenting that information to Representative Bashline and help move our case forward, hopefully.
Thank you.
I hope that's, I mean, his initial impression when he came in was, and he told us he definitely voted no in the bill, because in the bill, it was stated that they wouldn't be allowed to create any more cyber charter schools. And that was a definite no to him. So, we did try to express that, you know, we didn't have any issues with them creating more of those schools. Our issue was, like you said, a level playing field funding it. So, I guess we'll see as time goes on if we made an impression or not.
He has a much better understanding right now, and, you know, explained to him that we could educate cyber kids for around $5,000 per child. The proposal's $8,000. Currently, we're paying almost $20,000 per child for gen ed and $37,000 for special ed. So if that was cut back, that could save us a significant amount of money.
And the other thing we pointed out was the accountability. They don't have the accountability that we do. And, you know, we've always concerned about that, hoping to persuade him, you know, that that's something they need to delve into, comparing that and seeing how we can get compatible there. I mean, if you're going to educate a kid for that much money, then you should have some accountability and show some great growth. And in my personal experience in education, I don't see that happening. So any other board concerns? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items you would like to have removed from the consent agenda to be voted on separately? Okay, not hearing any. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Are there any items of discussion you would like to point out? Okay, not hearing anything. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to finance and purchase. Patty, if you would lead us through that?
Sure, I'd like to consider A through G. Yeah, A through G together, please. Approval and authorization to pay the bills for September, general fund finance report check register for, including athletics through August 25, cafeteria finance report, activities report for August 25, first program report for August 25, elementary activity account for August 25, and elementary yearbook activity account for 2025. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Just briefly, we're back up and we're in the swing. Things are starting to grow more slowly as it is always at the beginning of the year. The littles have a little trouble with things as their numbers, but they're coming around. I'm really excited to hear Maddie talk about that second chance breakfast was available for everybody this year. So that kind of made my night, and we are looking at some ways to try and increase that free breakfast participation. It's crazy that we have to work so hard to get them to eat for free, but we are really working on it, but our lunch participation numbers have been really good. I look forward to having a formal with those numbers for you for September and October. Other than that, we're just getting started. We're hoping for a very successful year. And Patty and I spoke tonight about the farm table program. I'm going to start working on that here very soon. She saw from USDA that has come out. I haven't received anything from PPE yet, but with the budget, we've been hearing some things, but not all. So we'll be getting together and work on that very, very soon.
Thanks, Susan. Okay, I realize I and J are kind of similar, but we have to do I first. So consideration to retroactively approve the advertising for the RFP for the auditorium roof sent for advertising August 20th, 25. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
So how do you want to handle the proposal? Do you want to start the discussion?
Yeah, go ahead and do
Because-
the motion.
Okay, so consideration to approve awarding Triangle Roofing contract to renovate the auditorium roof at a cost of,
$375,800.
so that's the one you want?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one we're going to put down.
Sorry, can you say that again, Kelly?
$375,800.
$375,800.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this evening we have Dan Becker with us. He is from Garland. Dan's been working closely with James Best and Courtney Chalmers and myself with the bidding process. And we asked Dan to come in and talk a little bit about the two different roofs, talk a little bit about the process that we've gone through, and just to provide a little bit more information to the school board and our community. Dan?
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to support the district and contribute to your process here. It's really, I'm from Mercer, another, small district in our state, and it's just nice to see servant leadership and some of the, success stories, whether we're, teaching kids to read or seeing some of the test scores and some of the things going on. It's, I just appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and represent Garland. So thanks for all you're doing. And I just want to kind of really transparently give you an opportunity to ask any questions about how we got here, the different options that are available to you, what you have now, really the whole process. Garland is a full-service manufacturer. We specialize in roofing and building envelope, but what we really specialize in is being a bolt-on asset to districts to basically help them keep buildings warm, safe, and dry. Our part of it is really just making sure that you get the best return on investment when you do a building envelope project. With the auditorium roof, you've had some good success. You have a roof that's been in place since basically the late 90s. And we evaluated all the different options. But first, what we typically do is we really like to do a deep assessment of what you have. So we looked at the original drawings from the construction of the building, the drawings from the renovation in the late 90s, and then obviously an on-roof, assessment of kind of the assets and materials that you have in place, how they're performing, and we use that to inform kind of what our options are, what would be the most responsible paths to consider for the district. And so the process really led us to looking at, kind of some good, better, best scenarios for you. One of the things that we considered was, potentially looking at a liquid applied coating over what's there. That's more of a shorter term return on investment. Obviously, you're grandfathering in both the strengths and the weaknesses of the existing roof. And with a roof that's approaching 30 years old, it's a little bit more risk than me, that I or really administrators like to take on for something like that. It's got a lower cost point, and that's why I think it certainly merits some consideration. And just to say, I was one of several folks in my field that the district leadership reached out to get some opinions and things like that. So I appreciated being a part of that process. But kind of summarize, we looked at that restoration option, liquid applied, and while the cost was lower, the lifespan of the asset and the lifespan of the solution was lower as well. So basically what that means is you spend a not insignificant amount of money up front, and then potentially going to have to spend more, way earlier than you'd like to. We like to do, set it and forget it type of solutions, in the sense of, hey, let's do it once, let's do it right, and let's get 30 or 40 years of return on investment, not 10 to 15. So that sort of rule pushed us away from the liquid applied solution, and we looked at the kind of roof that you have up there, which is a modified bitumen roof. These roofs have been done for hundreds of years. It's really, the system itself is foundationally built on, redundancy. Multiple layers of waterproofing, thickness, thick waterproofing layers, base sheet, cap sheet, adhesive in between. This sort of represents your substrate. So you can kind of pass it around. These are the different surfacing options. Okay, what you have up there right now is mineral option, is gray. Okay, here's red, but the benchmarking data across construction, across Garland's database, really, as long as benchmarking for construction has been tracked, the modified bitumen is the highest performer in terms of longevity, maintenance cost, and just overall performance for roofing. It has a little higher price point than some of the things like restoration and single ply roofing, but it lasts a whole heck of a lot longer. And so that's where that ROI comes in. So when we looked at the roof that's in place up there, it's, obviously it's structurally and architecturally, it's a little unique. We're not just talking about a flat roof like you typically see with school buildings. It has structural slope, it has ridges, it has valleys, it has open scuppers that drain down into cylindrical sort of French drains. You can see, if you look, there's some heat trace systems that for ice melt to prevent, icicles and ice damming at those scuppers. And then you also have a multi-level roof too. So there's a lot of design uniqueness to the structure there that really, again, puts the onus on us to really figure out, hey, what's going to perform the best here? And I say that to say the fact that that modified roof that was installed in the 90s with system criteria and system performance that, we're probably 3 generations further along now with the quality of the materials being utilized. Thank you. To see that it performed that well, really, I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, we have a lot of information staring us right in the face saying that this performed really well up here. We got three decades of performance, and so that sort of led us to strongly consider going back with, again, a more modern version of that solution. And then the third option we considered was standing seam metal, which excellent solution, very labor intensive, very costly. So while metal is, can be fantastic, it can be aesthetically pleasing, like I said, and can last quite a long time, we're also talking about a real significant cost accelerator. And so with the multipliers involved with that cost, again, we sort of came back to, all right, what's going to be that, on a good, better, best spectrum, what's really going to be the best way to thread the needle between performance, cost, and reliability. And so that's why I want to pass this around. This is sort of the solution that we came back to, the more modern version of the modified bitumen roofing system. And so with the administration considering those various options, the various budget bandwidths and price points that we talked about, we decided to go out for a strategic procurement and get some qualified contractors to submit actionable proposals for that roof system, or for the replacement of the roof system with a new modified bitumen system. And one of the things that Garland tries to deliver as far as value goes is most of your money with roofing projects goes to your contractors. And so the contractor is really one of the most important elements. And so what we do is we provide a network of qualified contractors. We do thorough investigations both in terms of financial stability, auditing financials, auditing safety records, auditing clearance data to make sure that these folks are actually safe to work around schools. And so that database is something that's very critical. And so when we have 5 bidders coming to the table, say these are 5 high-level expert bidders that we know are going to be professional, do what they say they're going to do. We're not going to have to babysit them, and they're going to be the type of folks that you want around a school. And not for nothing, but it gets harder and harder to find folks that meet those criteria. And so that's one of the things that we always deliver to our clients is, hey, you're going to be dealing with the best of the best here, and folks that you're going to be proud to work with, and they're going to do a great job for you. What we were able to do is solicit to 5 contractors that both had CoStar's program availability and also were interested in the project, because the administration also made it a point that, hey, we want to move fast. We want to get this done in the fall and not let this carry over into 2026. And so kind of had work cut out for us a little bit there because it's September. So we were able to pull together the project documents, engineering design, get that finalized and reviewed in August, get those invitations out to those strategic contractors to look at the project. And of the 5 that were qualified to bid this particular project based on their availability and the CoStar's criteria and the Garland criteria, we had 3 respond with competitive bids. And the triangle bid that you read into the record is the most competitive and the best value to the district. And Triangle is actually a contractor that we have extensive history with. In fact, I was just at the final inspection at the Clarion Career Center this afternoon to wrap that project up, which really went well. Triangle did that installation. I know you folks have board members that participate on that board as well. And so I was very honored to be a part of that project and try to bring the same kind of quality control and value to this process. So I have no concerns about Triangle. I have no concerns about the solution, and I think the process has been thorough. But I do want to avail myself to everybody here, as far as the board goes, to talk about, hey, the 2 different options, our process, solutions, any questions you might have about anything involved here. I'm happy to answer.
Dan, as you know, the bid that we have in front of the school board to vote on is the one with the zero VOC roof system. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you'd recommend that over the traditional?
Certainly. Again, with the imperative being that we would really like to get this project wrapped up this season before we run out of weather, it puts certainly a little bit of a limitation in terms of time. And when we like to do roofing projects at school districts, we typically like to do them in the summer. Well, here we are. And so one of the one of the questions that I was asked was, hey, can we do something that is going to be both effective but also minimize disruption of the learning environment so that we can actually execute this project while kids are in school without compromising anybody's safety or comfort. And so one of the solutions we looked at were a low VOC option, low odor option, and that's where, the adhesive comes into play. We're talking about the adhesive there. And then what I also looked at was what would be the feasibility how would the bids come back for a hospital grade? We do a lot of healthcare work, and as you can imagine, that's one of the most sensitive environments that there is. And so we looked at the type of adhesive and systems that we use in a hospital environment so that we could, again, just provide that the quality without sacrificing the learning environment, because we are going to have to work while students are in school. And so the two options that you see are, one is a low VOC, low odor option. That's the base bid, and I think that was $358,800, $358,500.
Yes.
And then the other option was the zero odor, zero VOC. That's the hospital grade system, and really only marginally higher for that second option. If it were just an odor situation for the higher number, I might push back a little bit and say, hey, let's pro and con this, but it also happens to be a fantastic product. The hospital environment is not just very sensitive environmentally speaking, but it also, again, we can't have leaks. We can't have patient health affected by roof leaks and things like that. So it just also happens to be an excellent, excellent system. And so from that standpoint, for the marginal increase of cost and the flexibility to again, confidently work while students are in the classrooms, I do recommend it in this case. So from that standpoint, I think it's the right way to go. But again, any questions you might have on that, I'm happy to answer.
I think you answered mine. My question was, is it as good or as better a system, and you answered that, so.
Yeah, and that's honestly, that's a great question, because in a lot of these VOC situations where you have to alter your product in order to meet the VOC standards set forth by the EPA and other bodies, you end up with a product that's less than, and it happens to be more expensive, but is not as effective. This is one where Garland really emphasized the fact that if we're going to do something that meets these standards and it's going to cost more, it needs to be better. And so that's the direction we went.
Okay, any other questions? So if you choose, if you would rather not do the increased cost, we can vote this motion down and then do another motion with a lower cost. Any discussion on that? Any
And
questions?
like the gentleman said, I'm sorry, I forget your name.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, Tracy had done a cruise in there. She's meticulous, she was very tight ship. I think she was contracting with Garland, was trying to the whole process there. I have nothing to say about it.
Any other, we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to retroactively approve advertising for the RFP for the auditorium renovations sent for advertisement on August 20th, 2025. So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve, and this is new today, correct? Consideration to approve awarding Burns Contracting the contract to renovate the auditorium at a cost of $498,000. So moved.
Second. Thank you, Patty. We did have the bid openings today at 1 o'clock, and we had 5 contractors submit bids, and they ranged from $498,000 all the way up to $900,000. So being good stewards of the community, we are making the recommendation to go with Burns, $498,000. I do have Amos here to talk a little bit about the process and some of the aspects that the general contractor will be doing. But just keep in mind, too, that we will be entertaining a HVAC and plumbing bid as well in the near future, as well as electrical. And some of the wish that we had through the auditorium committee has really increased the cost of electric. So what we're going to do is reevaluate that bid and go back out because right now it has exceeded the overall cost that we had budgeted for the auditorium. So for this evening, we feel very comfortable to start moving forward with Burns. And Amos, is there anything that you'd like to add to that conversation?
Well, I can just kind of explain where we're at. So, as David said, we've got 5 bids for the general contractors, and they range from 498 to 900. Fred L. Burns, I've worked with them in the past, several school projects, several other projects. They had some questions during the bidding process. I feel comfortable that working with them, I think they did a great job. They've actually, I think they did a gymnasium here. The electrical, as David mentioned, we had 4 contractors pick up the bid packet, show up at the community meeting, and we received 1 bid. So we felt like it was in the best interest of this project. We're going to take a look at maybe doing a little bit of value engineering. That bid, with only 1 bidder, it's hard to say. I mean, the other bids could range from 500 to 900,000. So had we received 2 other bids, we might be just fine with the budget. So, but we want to go ahead. We're going to just reevaluate some of the audio-visual systems and put that out to bid again. I feel pretty confident once we get this back, we'll reach out to some other contractors. I talked to a few of the electric contractors. Some of them picked up some larger jobs, so they just didn't bother bidding the project. Another one had an issue with bonding side of the project. So there's 2 or 3 other folks that my electrical engineer is aware of, and one of them I worked on another auditorium with. So I feel comfortable we'll be able to get some additional bids, pull those numbers back. One of the things we talked about is if we award to Burns, and I spoke with them, there's some we could get started on the project. There's some lead time items. Essentially focus on trying to get the auditorium seating ordered, doors, any other lead time items. There's some asbestos abatement. So those are the things that we can start working, getting all our ducks in a row, getting materials, lead time items there, ready to go while we're waiting to get the electrical bids back in, and then press full steam ahead. So I'll sit down with Joe, Fred L. Burns, work on a schedule of the list of lead time items. We'll start picking colors for the auditorium seating, carpeting, and get everything in order so we're ready to go. And we'll sit down. I feel like we probably should sit down and take a look at a schedule with them. I'd hate to get ahead of ourselves too far, get in there, open everything up, tear it up, and then be waiting. Once we get started, we're going to be able to so we can work on getting the contracts together, getting the bonds together, getting the material in order, and then we'll take a look at the schedule, we'll put a schedule together, and work on getting those provided.
Any questions? Not hearing any other discussion points? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the quote for the replacement of 2 gate valves for the auditorium air handling in the amount of $5,390 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
James, can you talk a little bit more about this particular item and the requirements associated with it?
That's just going to be the auditorium air handler. It's underneath the stage. We just wanted to lump some of this work in with that project. This gate valve supply from the boiler system, the hot water to actually make the heat for the auditorium. There are 2 original valves. They're kind of showing signs of wear and leaking. They are pretty good size. So we're going to have this contractor come in and actually freeze the line so we don't have to drain the whole system. Once you do that, you're going to have problems with getting the air out of the system. Plus, we're going to be firing that system up here pretty soon, and just to try to eliminate any future issues with that. So we can, in the future, if we have to work on that air handler, we can actually isolate the heating system for that area and, make any repairs we need. We would like to look into the heating coil, try to get that upgraded too. We just didn't think there was any point in tearing that whole unit out from under the stage, because right now there's a 2x2 access hole in the stage floor, so everything would have to be demoed, taken out of the stage, and then to get any type of new air handler system in there would almost be impossible without making the hole out through the exterior wall and bringing everything in. Other than that, it's been running pretty well for the age. We just kind of wanted to spruce it up a little bit and start with these valves.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the Invention Land Education Design quote in the amount of $9,749.25 paid by the PA Smart Grant as attached. So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I just have a question. This is just for designing purposes, right? They're not, this isn't any equipment, furniture, this is just for them to help design? Okay. So it says something about a quote for phase 2, project build and delivery. Are we moving then forward with them to actually purchase and create the space? Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the business manager contract with EDM at a cost that is completed by accounting staff. The cost that is completed by accounting staff is billable at $80 an hour. It is estimated 8 to 12 hours for the $105 rate, with the balance of time at $80 an hour. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? Do you want to explain anything about, just to support?
It's a contracted company that has a variety of staff associated with the support that they plan to provide to Courtney and myself and the district, not only to help reduce costs, but be more efficient, and depending on the staff members who are working on what products or pieces of the business needs that we have right now would dictate that cost. And so a lot of that face-to-face work that we'll have, probably more at the beginning of it, it will be billed at the higher rate. And then some of the more lower-level accounting aspects, it'll be billed at the $80. We met with Matt several times. Him and his team's ready to go. We do need the support in the district office. We also met with PASBO and one of their retired business managers, and through a conversation that Courtney and I had, we're recommending to go with EDM, not only because we have a need right now, but we think there's a long-term solution that could help reduce some of the costs that we have in the business office.
And also, I noticed in the quote that they will help with the budget development, which will be important coming up here not too far in the future.
That's
So.
correct.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve Jason Nato conducting evaluations and school psychological services and his fee schedule as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. That is to help fill in for maternity leave of our professionals in case we need services while they're out.
I think there's some evaluations that are being conducted. There might be some work that they could do as they work their way back in, but depending on the actual assessment or reassessment, then they will be taking on the bulk of the work during, maternity leave. And we'll be working with Ms. School to help, identify those needs.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the ACV ADA parking change order number 1 for curb along the ADA parking area in the amount of $8,200 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I think Dr. McDivitt explained to us why that, we have this addition, something that was missed originally and something that's needed, so. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve adding Courtney Chalmers, Assistant Business Manager, to all bank accounts currently held by the district. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. If we don't do this, we're in trouble. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve removing Aaron Morrison, Business Manager, from all bank accounts currently held by the district. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Consideration to approve the quote for mobile irrigation unit in the amount of $15,199.82 as attached. So moved.
Second.
Was that part of the grant writing, or is that like some of the equipment that we wrote into that? Or is it something new?
It'll be part of the bond that we got for the football field. There's no
Yes, the
grant
bond.
associated with the water wheel.
I
but it
used
is
the wrong
something
term,
that-
I apologize.
Yep, but it is something that we had tied into the bond originally, and something that James has been spearheading. James, can you talk a little bit about that, that particular item and how it plans on working?
So the irrigation will be for the football field. We plan to get water supplied from Foxburg Water Company. We do have the unit. We received multiple bids on that initially. I reached out to one of our reps we deal with now, Pioneer, to get our field paint and whatnot for the fields. So I just felt like it was a reputable rep to go with, and then have that dealer support for parts or kind of getting us trained on how to run the unit. And it was the cheaper option.
And you could use that anywhere on campus, right? I mean, if we reseed anything, you could use that as
To
needed?
an extent, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're planning to tie into a hydrant and then just put a meter on there and kind of work with the Foxburg Water Company on that. We do have 3 hydrants on campus, so technically we could water certain areas. We just have to get longer sections of those. And this unit is big enough to actually do the field from goalpost to goalpost. We'll actually place the unit at the one end of the field, pull the hose out, and once the unit is running, it'll actually spool itself back up, and then it'll kind of water the field back and forth, sideline to sideline, and actually retract itself back in. So it'll be neat to get it up and running, and that's what we're doing.
I guess I was just thinking track project. I didn't know if you're gonna need something like that up there, once the work's done.
We're gonna put grass back at the center of that too, new grass probably.
We're not going to disrupt the middle of that. It should be okay as it's done.
I mean, everything needs water now, obviously, in our yards or wells, but, yeah, it should come back in the spring, be able to fertilize it, try to get back.
Do we have a hydrant by the track back there?
It's actually at the corner of the library at the high school, so it is a significant distance back there. We could look into, portable hose to actually feed the unit. Again, once we get it up and running on the field, see how it works, the pressures, kind of learn from that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, if you would give us a few minutes, we're going to break for an executive session before we start into personnel. Shouldn't be very long. You don't mind waiting for us? note, Sarah, that we came back from executive session at 8:07 PM. And we'll move on to personnel. Carrie, would you lead us through that, please?
Sure. Letter A, consideration to approve the request from employee number 370 for paid maternity leave utilizing all emergency sick and personal days. Once all emergency sick and personal days are exhausted, requesting to use family medical leave. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter B, consideration to approve hiring Jonathan Nelson at a bachelor's step 1 as a long-term 7 through 12 social studies teacher. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter C, consideration to approve the request from Chad Carmichael upon receipt of all appropriate documentation to be an assistant golf coach at a supplemental salary of $640. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Letter D, consideration to approve hiring Robin Knight, licensed practical nurse, upon receipt of all appropriate documentation as a long-term substitute school nurse at an hourly rate of $25 an hour. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
And letter E, consideration to approve accepting the letter of resignation from Dan White, maintenance technician, effective September 30th, 2025. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right. Brady, will you do instructional services for us?
The data reports, the presentation that we did earlier was both mine and Bill's reports for this evening. We just did want to add that this Friday is the midpoint of the quarter 1 9 weeks.
Wow.
And we just want to remind the public that we are not sending home paper progress reports this year. There will be an all-call that goes out to remind families to check the parent portal and reach out to teachers if they have any questions or concerns. And we did put that out in writing at the elementary school too. So other than that, that's it for me.
Consideration to approve the 25-26 AC Valley Senior High School building.
Moved and seconded. Any discussions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Quite a few things going on, fall sports right now, so I'll try to get through them quickly. Maddie stole one of mine earlier, so the varsity football team's undefeated, so that's impressive, and I'm sure that's our best start ever in time for a football team, since we fell off also. JV football is playing the second game tonight, which is a bonus from having the increased numbers on the squad. We're able to have some play some JV games this year, and so I think we're maybe playing Keystone for the second time, but it doesn't matter. They're getting an opportunity, so it's great. Junior high's got their third game this Thursday. Varsity volleyball is 3-3 right now. They have a big game coming up with Keystone Thursday. The boys golf team is currently in third place overall in KSAC. If they stay in the top 4, they'll get the opportunity to compete as a team at the KSAC championship next Monday at Munson County Country Club. And we're providing the KSAC championship just as prep for the district, give them one more chance to play in holes. And it's actually the site, the KSAC rents. We're trying to rent the course for our championship, which is the same course that the host district give us one more chance to get on before the district's going to play the practice round. So Joe Rapp's the low stroke average so far this year. There's one match that they're playing tonight, so hopefully he can stay in that position. And Cohen Strasser's fifth, and I think that's a big reason why we're second or third overall. The girls' team wrapping up very soon. They have one match remaining, I think. In junior high golf, they're just getting started, so they have about a 4-week season, 6 matches, traveling around, getting some playing time. So, if anybody doesn't have any questions, that's all I have.
Good evening. Just a couple updates. Our current enrollment is 24 students. We have 18 current graduates, 3 recent GED students. We had purchased 2 new simulators with last year's money. they were purchased in June 2025. They came in today, and the company sent an installation guy, and we put them together. So I just kind of wanted to go over what those two simulators were. The one was heavy equipment, articulated hauler, tower crane, telescopic handler, grader, motor grader, V3, a wheel loader, and then the other one was a mobile crane and bulldozer. They also adjusted another 10-star, so it is only a car and van driving only. Our students don't have driver's license. We'd like to prepare them so that they can at least be prepared to walk out and take that driver's test, so that's one of the things we're going to do. Also, we are starting a workforce program with rite of passage. It's through CareerLink. It's in the infancy stages presently, but we're looking at all WestU students that are going to basically get in-house work experiences for that. We, as a ACV, are going to issue work permits for those students who qualify, and CareerLink actually pays our students $15 an hour for the workforce program if they qualify. And then that program will supervise them, both ROP and ACV. And students can earn up to 300 hours working, and that money that they earn can pay off restitution that they have, or that will be retained by rite of passage, and then they'll be given that when they leave the facility. So that's just taking another step for the students. Also, we're looking at more certifications for students as we continue to build upon our simulators. So that's it. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. As of today, our Title I, Title II, Title IV, and Title I-D FERs are all submitted. David signed off on all of those today. And as far as our 2025-2026 consolidated application, that has been submitted. The allocations before the funding adjustments have been released. So Title I allocation for the upcoming school year is $193,035. Title II is $25,005. Title IV is $13,304. And Title I-D, we had anticipated this to be a little bit closer to $200,000, but because of the drop in enrollment, we are sitting at $106,610. That is all for the title grants. We were selected for monitoring for one of our closed, it's a closed PCCD grant, and it was the one that was for our security cameras during the 2023 school year, I think is when that opened. And that was roughly around $30,000. So we will be meeting, Courtney and myself, Lindsay, with Chuck from the PCCD grants virtually in October to discuss that monitoring selection. Obviously, you know, we talked a little bit about the PA Smart Grant and what we just obtained through Invention Land, those consulting services. The NFL Grassroots Grant is still outstanding. I just made contact with them last week just to check on the status of that, and they said they are still in the review process, and by October we should hear something. So just as a reminder, that allocation is $100,000 to offset the cost potentially of some of the work on the field. So I'll keep you posted on that, fingers crossed. Any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brady. I'll just start with an update on the budget impasse. On August 25th, the governor said he thought they were close to a budget deal. The big issue in Harrisburg right now is public transportation. On September 8th, the Senate returned to Harrisburg. They presented to the governor a $49.9 billion compromised budget. It's being discussed right now. Representative Bashline said potentially a week the budget could be passed. They do have a legislative meeting on Tuesday, September 23rd, and then there's a budget impasse press conference scheduled for September 25th. So hopefully it will get passed beforehand. A couple more updates. We do have both outside social worker programs set up, Glade Run and Next Step. They are functioning, working with the administrative team and seeing kids. We've been doing a lot of legislative work lately with local and state legislators. Park sent out a letter asking for cyber reform to the entire legislative body. This evening, you'll hear from our newest police officer, Brent Davensizer, but Brent and I was in Clarion County Courts today, and we got him officially sworn in as our second school police officer, and as you can see, he has his uniform, and will be carrying his firearm as well. And then just finally, Commissioner Braxton White is spearheading a suicide prevention and family support task force in Clarion, and he contacted me and asked me to be on that committee, and I graciously accepted that, and we'll be working with him and other local leaders in Clarion County to help support some people struggling with mental health. Brady, that concludes my report.
Moved in second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Yeah, nice to meet you.
And Brendan and Dave are going to switch between the two buildings, 1 week at the elementary, 1 week at the high school, just to keep familiar with the students.
Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. On August 18th, Heather Null provided CPR training for all of our paraprofessionals, as well as Dr. McDivitt and myself. I just wanted to extend gratitude to Heather for her flexibility and professionalism. Her training would help ensure that our team is fully prepared to keep our students safe in all settings. Another training that is underway is our CPI training, which is our crisis prevention and intervention training. Several staff members have gotten recertified, and moving forward, 100% of our special education staff will be certified. Tammy Davis will spearhead that as our mental health specialist. She's also CPI trained, which is a benefit of having her in the district with us, which will provide consistent de-escalation strategies to all of our special education leadership team as well. I just wanted to give a highlight to Heather Johns. She's a paraprofessional who's been working instrumentally with a student with visual impairments in our band, and parent, community members, and the student have all given us rave reviews about her and how well she's doing out on the field, as well as just moving forward with like our inclusion practices. So wanted to make sure that we gave her some credit where it was due. And then in front of you, I also provided a letter just so that you had some language of our remote learning that will be going home to our parents for all of our families with special education. Those learning plans will be outlined and revised, and that's the communication home with parents at both the elementary and the high school. Those plans have been submitted to the case managers, and revisions will be made moving forward. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to policy. Jeff, do you want to do policy? You can lump some of those together.
I'll do I think the first one's the second reading, and then the other one. So, consideration to approve the second and final reading of policy 249, bullying and cyberbullying as a class.
And second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
And then I can do B through I, policy 803.5, policy 102, policy 105, policy 122, 122.1, policy 123, policy 209.2, and policy 918.
Moved and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Would you like to give us the facilities report? We've
Yes.
already asked you a lot of questions.
Yeah,
after
just to recap some of that we went over. Up at the high school, we are still working on the AC unit in the library office. We ran into some issues in there, seeking parts, and we'll get that back together. As you've heard, the ADA parking is moving along well so far up at the high school. The guys did pour the first section of concrete today, and they probably plan to pour about every day moving forward, I guess, different sections, and then just working our way over the other side of the building. As Dan said, we met with them about the auditorium roof fitting, and then just going over some of the pre-bid meetings, scope of work with Amos and those contractors. The elementary, it's been relatively calm. We did do some preventative maintenance on some of the heating system, just to kind of get things fired up here soon. Got some things back in order. District-wide, did touch base on the irrigation unit. We do have that. Just waiting on a couple couplings to get that hooked up. We might be able to potentially test it out back behind the high school. Obviously, they're going to be working on the field relatively soon, so they don't interrupt the scope of work on there. We did meet this evening with the subcontractor for the track that are going to be doing the blacktop work through the ACV Sports. He said probably the middle of next week, they should be able to get some equipment on site and kind of start that project so we can figure out anything in the back parking lot. If we have to keep that opened up for truck traffic or any hazards that might come about. David, myself, and Bill met with the football field contractor the end of last week there, Thursday, as they said, get some equipment moved in last week. I was hoping to see them today, but we'll see how this week plays out and if they start anything on there. The next week or two, I plan to get boilers preventative maintenance scheduled for that. Getting to that time of year where we're going to be firing that stuff up. The contractors like to have them running whenever they do any kind of work on them. So once they are up and running, I'd like to kind of keep them running. So we're just trying to schedule that appropriately. And just trying to get some final pricing on the truck and tractor to get that for the next board meeting. Kind of do it for next week. That's all I have for now.
Okay. We're going to move on to transportation. I was looking here, I believe we can lump some of these together as we do the approval. So if you look, A through I would be the contracts for the extra. J is separate, that's a career center. K through N are bus contracts. And then O through S are the van contracts. Okay? John, do you want to do those for us? A through I, those are all the extracurricular activities transportation contracts. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on any of those items? We discussed those, or Lori gave us information on those contract changes, or what was the same or what might have changed at our workshop meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Letter J, consideration approved career center transportation contract between Allegheny Valley School District and Billy Busing Company dated August 21st, 2025 is attached. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
K through N. Consideration to approve the 2025-2026 bus contracts with Bobber Busing for bus 2, 5, and 10. Bailey Busing for bus 3, 7, 9, and 16. Calendar Transportation Incorporated for bus 11. And Martha Cook for bus 6. Dated August 21st, 2025, as attached. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Almost done, John.
Letter O through S. Consideration to approve the 2025-2026 van contracts. Michelle Eiler for number 5690 and number 3184, dated July 21st, 2025, between Irwin Transportation LLC, number 4624, number 1429, number 7887, number 6683, and number 0146. Consideration to approve Pam Myers Transportation, van number 0088, number 0162, number 07443, number 3091, number 1296, number 4846, number 7035, number 5178, number 2665, and number 2309. Van contracts with Kelly Stavanis is following: number 2991 and number 0975. And with Clint Ace for number 4316, dated 21 August 2025. So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, Diane, you want to lead us through miscellaneous?
Yeah, so we just talked about the budget impact, career center, funding for that. I think right now we're paying this for everything like that. Doing that. The roof we got finished up the career center there, and we had hired a building instructor. This is all PhD classes for special lessons.
Yep. So the parking lot project at the IU is finished, looks great, it's much nicer than what it was. And TerraWorks did a phenomenal job working with the IU. We had a re-election or election of new officers. The three of us did remain in our positions. We didn't have tremendous outpouring of people who wanted to jump in, but we all agreed to stay on. So Tom Phillips from North Clarion is once again our president. I've remained on as the vice president, and Kevin O'Neill from Titusville is our treasurer. Other than that, we talked about how the budget stalemate, if you will, is impacting some of the things at the IU. We had some personnel changes, with the most significant being the departure of Sean Aljo. So we will be hiring a new assistant executive director. So I think that is all.
Any correspondence?
Nope.
We don't have a technology committee.
No, we haven't met yet this year.
Athletic committee update. Finance committee update. Football
Yeah, the only thing that was mentioned were the bids being opened and the Invention Land grant, and setting up another meeting early next week, so until we have.
Okay, any old business? Any new business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All right, thank you folks for your time tonight.